a statement from Sadiq Khan's staff that didn't go down well and ended up getting retracted. There's a picture, which you'll probably see now, of a white family in London, and it was on some guide to London. And apparently Sadiq Khan, I should say, staff chimed in and said this is not representative of Londoners and these aren't real Londoners. Well, actually they used to be, until your little Kalergi plan went full tilt and we ended up literally purging all the whites out of London because there was a thing called white flight. Because what happened was we ended up bringing in lots of people of different colours and they ended up building up in certain areas, and white people ended up feeling like they didn't belong there or didn't want to be there, or the crime rate went up, or numerous other things that made them feel very unwelcome. And so they decided to up stuff and move to other areas, preferably more white. Now this might come as an offence to people. Personally, I couldn't give, right? It's the facts. Now the interesting other fact to notice would be the difference between London prior to this mass invasion and after. Crime has always been a thing in London, I agree, but crime now is the case that your kids can go out in the night and get stabbed to death and you'll end up burying them. Not very good. Kids go into places now, help themselves to stuff and get away from it. Kids run around on motorbikes or scooters without any number plates on and steal phones, steal anything they like actually, and just do pretty much what they want, and the police won't go after them, and especially if they're BAME. Basically speaking, there's a load of feral idiots running around London, and organised crime from Albanians and all the rest of it they've taken over certain areas, and then you've got drug gangs run by certain individuals, well, certain ethnic groups. Basically the place is awful, and most people who are white don't want to live there, so that is a fact. And I can't help but think that this is indicative of many cities. If you have a look at the centre of Birmingham, Bradford, Leeds, Coventry, take your pick. All of these places have now been utterly flooded with people who don't look like the indigenous population of this country in, say, for instance, the 40s, 50s or 60s. I would suggest that anybody who went to war in the Second World War, or maybe even the First World War, if they'd have known the way that Great Britain was going to go, or England if you like, simply would have said, what the hell are we risking our lives for? And I'd have to agree with them. The London, or basically the Great Britain, the England that I was born into, is not the same. Now, I'm very, very fortunate to live in a massively white area. I like that, by the way. Yes, there are a couple of people of colour in there, but it is one of those things that when you have such a low proportion of people of, say, for instance, that come from India or come from African backgrounds or whatever, when they're at such a low percentage, they're great. Because these are the people that are the doers. These are the people that are the thinkers. These are the people that are energetic to do well in life. They want to set up a business. They want to get on with the local area. These are the people who are fine. Now, there's many of you that say that they're all right until they become big numbers. Yes, I agree. There was a bloke who wrote a book about what Islam does at different percentages. So say, for instance, at 0.2%, they're fine, they assimilate, they dress the same as us, they get on with their neighbours, and they don't ask for any special privileges. But when you get to a certain level, they start asking to build a mosque, halal food, they want Sharia certain stuff in places, and then when it gets more and more, they then want to force it upon the other people in that area. Now, we all know that basically Islam wants to colonize the world. Now, there'll be a load of hating white people out there that say, well, you did it yourself. Yes, we did, but we actually made the place better. Take a look at, say, for instance, Iran or Iraq prior to it being taken over by extreme clerics. Now, the Shah of Iran, or the Shah, is it the Shah of Iran? Now, this guy was quite progressive. Not perfect, far from it. Corrupt as well. However, when you looked at the place, because he was quite progressive, and he believed that, yes, he was a Muslim, etc., but he believed that women should be able to make their own choices. They should be able to dress in westernized clothes, miniskirts, etc. The place was very pretty. Unfortunately, because he was leaning more towards a communist, obviously the CIA came in and interfered with it and bolstered Ayatollah Khomeini, who said to anybody who went up against him, if I get in, I will not persecute you. And he said to the CIA that if you get in, we'll look after you and we'll facilitate you. Turns out that within a week of getting in, the amount of people that he executed that he saw as a threat to his power, He was a psychopath. He enjoyed watching some of the executions himself, and full of hate. And he sent that country back hundreds of years. Now, when you look at it now, after the raging wars that it's had, etc., which you could blame on the West, the place doesn't look anything like it used to. It looked beautiful back then, and so did the women. And this can be said for many of the places in the Middle East, until basically an extreme Islamic cleric took over and forced some of the worst tenets of Islam on the place and expected everybody to conform or punishment, because, hey, democracy wins, right? And this is the thing. If Islam was so good, it would sell itself. There was a saying, a winning army needs no recruitment sergeant. Now, you could say the same about Islam. If Islam was so great, people would join it by their own free will and enjoy it. But when you've got to enforce it, you're probably onto a losing wicket, whatever. But there are many people within Islam's team that actually fucking hate white people, by the way. And they would have said that statement with relish and enjoyment. And I have to thank Anna, by the way, for sending me this particular clip, because I've been looking for something to get my teeth back into doing videos, and this was just the ticket. What we're going to have to do in the future is get far right. That's what you would call it. Basically, it'd be common sense parties, but you can call it far right. You can call it what you like. We'll have to vote for these people, and they will have to take rather strong measures to try to start to reverse the damage that's been done. I.e., the first thing you do is take a punt at all these people that came into the country recently, illegally, and just get rid of them. Now, people will be screaming, what about their human rights? Who fucking cares? And this is the sort of measures you'll have to take going forward if you actually want to try and redress the problems, because at the moment, the way things are going, we'll be outbred, and within, I don't know, 40 or 50 years, this will be a country run by Islam and Sharia. There will be probably pockets of resistance, and those pockets of resistance will be attacked on a regular basis by these lunatics from Islam, and they'll justify it, and the whole world will turn a blind eye because, well, they're gutless. So don't ever expect any help from the UN or anything like that. You won't get it. The only way that anything will work is actually by if the people take control themselves. But what you'll end up with is civil war, which is what I've been predicting for a very long time. And I can't help but think this is something that's been engineered, because when your country falls into civil war, the economy collapses pretty much, which is what they want to do to manage the new economy that will come out of it. As we know, our currency is built on fiat currency, which at some point will fail. And this is why the globalists are managing the new whatever it is that's got to come out of this. So they've got to collapse the system. And what better way to do it than to invite the third world in, which they know will run ragged and fight everything. Anyway, I've got to go to work now and pay the taxes to help these people. I'll see you in a bit.